I can also confirm today that I have reasonable grounds to believe, on the basis of evidence collected and examined by my office, that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Minister of Defense Yoav Gallant bear criminal responsibility.
In the future, the State of Israel have to control on the entire area from the river to the sea.
אנחנו מטילים מצור מוחלט על העיר עזה. אין חשמל, אין מזון, אין מים, אין דלק. הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם ואנחנו נוהגים בהתאם.
We do remember and we are fighting our brave troops and combatants who are now in Gaza.
The ICC has no jurisdiction over Israel, and Mr. Khan's actions will not stop us from waging our just war against Hamas.
Let me be clear. We reject the ICC's application for arrest warrants against Israeli leaders. Whatever these warrants may imply, there is no equivalence between Israel and Hamas.
Welcome, this is Najma Minhas with GVS Dialogue. Karim Khan, the International Criminal Court's chief prosecutor, has announced that he is seeking arrest warrants for the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, his Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and 3 Hamas leaders: Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas in Gaza, Mohammed al-Masri, the head of the Al-Qasim Brigade, and Ismail Haniyeh, the political leader of Hamas, who is based in Doha, Qatar, and is currently leading the hostage negotiations. This is history in the making, as for the first time, arrest warrants are being sought for a leader of a democratic nation. Israel is not a member of the ICC, but the Palestinian territories have membership since 2015. Hence, the court has jurisdiction on this matter. 124 nations, including most Western democracies, are members of the ICC, and if the court issues arrest warrants, they are legally obligated to arrest the people named under these warrants. Karim Khan has made clear that nobody is above the law.
Today we underline in the clearest possible fashion that international law and the laws of armed conflict apply to everyone. No foot soldier, no commander, no civilian leader, no one can act with impunity.
Karim Khan has said he has warned the Israeli officials for several months now about the possibility of arrest warrants. So why did the Israelis do nothing? Was it just hubris or something else? What are the steps between requesting the court for the arrest warrants and getting them? What does it mean if arrest warrants are issued? Will Netanyahu actually be held accountable for killing thousands of Palestinians? Please subscribe, like, and share this video if you enjoy the content on this channel. It will help me to bring a variety of new people and topics to you to discuss the different issues which affect all of us intellectually and emotionally as human beings. In what may turn out to be a make or break moment for Karim Khan as well, the court's chief prosecutor said in a statement that all 5 men bear criminal responsibility for alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity committed in Israel or the Gaza Strip. He has set out 8 charges against the Hamas leaders, which include extermination, murder, torture, taking hostages, and rape and other acts of sexual violence, along with other charges for their actions in Israel on October the 7th. Meanwhile, the charges against Netanyahu and Gallant include extermination, the starvation of civilians, and intentionally directing attacks against a civilian population. 40,000 Palestinians have died, and close to 50% of these are women and children. Over 80,000 have been injured, and according to the United Nations Food Security Classification, over half of the population, approximately 1.1 million people, are in a state of starvation. Volker Turk, the UN's most senior human rights official, has told the BBC that Israel was responsible for the crisis in Gaza and that starvation may have been used as a weapon of war. The ICC prosecutor Khan has made it very clear Israel has every right to defend itself. What it does not have is the right to break international law in its actions when pursuing this right. The International Criminal Court is a separate entity from the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, which prosecutes crimes done by nations rather than those by individuals. So, for example, the South African case on the genocide being done by Israel and its additional charge of seeking to halt Israel's ground offensive on Rafah are still in front of the ICJ. The ICC was set up in 2002 and acts as a court of last resort when member states are unwilling or unable to try heinous crimes themselves. It can prosecute nationals of its 124 member states as well as individuals who commit crimes on the territory of a member state. The next step is a panel of ICC pre-trial judges who will now consider Khan's application for the arrest warrants and determine whether there is sufficient evidence to actually issue those. The threshold of evidence for a warrant is just, in this case, reasonable grounds to believe, rather than beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the standard for conviction at trials. The chamber will be composed of 3 magistrates, presiding Judge Motov of Romania, the Mexican Judge Liera, and Judge Alapini Gansao of Benin. There is no deadline for the judges to decide whether to issue arrest warrants. In previous cases, judges have taken anywhere from just under 1 month to several months to decide. In almost all previous cases, the prosecutor's application has been approved by the pre-trial judges. In this case, given the world is looking at these judges, it would be very difficult for them to come under external pressure to not give the warrants. If they did, they would be accused of pandering to the West or the United States. The court is already under pressure, getting criticism from the Global South for mostly issuing warrants for African nation leaders who have less political clout on the world arena.
Some elected leaders speak to me and be very blunt. This court is built for Africa and for thugs like Putin, was what one senior leader told me. We don't view it like that.
Warrants have been issued for various leaders, including former Sudanese head of state Omar al-Bashir. In his case, the process took several months. But for President Vladimir Putin, it took less than 1 month. The application was submitted in 22nd of February 2023, and by 17th of March, the court had given its approval for arrest warrants for him. In this case, while Russia has not been a member of the ICC since 2016, however, Ukraine accepts jurisdiction of the court. And the US has been very active in providing evidence against Putin to the ICC for this case. Once arrested, the court case starts with initial hearings, and if the court accepts there is enough evidence to move ahead, then the actual trial starts. Typically, it takes between 9 months to 2 years after the confirmation of charges pre-trial is held, in which the arrested person is present. The ICC does not conduct trials in absentia, so the case cannot progress to trial until the suspect is in the custody of the ICC. Currently, 17 individuals subject to arrest warrants remain at large, including Vladimir Putin and Omar al-Bashir. Since the arrest warrants, Putin has significantly limited his travel. You may remember that last week, Putin was in China on a state visit. He took a direct flight there, which ensured that he couldn't be arrested anywhere en route. China is not a member of the ICC either. Last year, in August 2023, Putin attended the BRICS summit held in Johannesburg via a video conference to eliminate this risk of arrest by the International Criminal Court, as South Africa is a signatory and has that obligation. This created a lot of speculation whether he would attend the G20 session later then in India in September 2023. India is not a member of the ICC either. In the end, he did not attend that session physically. Similarly, the United States is not a member, so that leaves Netanyahu free to go to the country for visits, but it would be difficult for him to go to most European nations. However, member states in the past have flouted this obligation to arrest individuals. For example, both South Africa and Jordan failed to arrest Sudan's Omar al-Bashir during his visits to their countries. But this may be more difficult to do so in the case of Western European countries. However, in countries like the United Kingdom, who've shown strong political support for Netanyahu, the courts may have to intervene to implement the ICC's decision. Qatar is also not an ICC member, which means it will not be under any pressure to arrest Ismail Haniyeh. In taking the decision to seek arrest warrants and prepare materials, Khan has said that he took advice from a panel of experts in international law, all of whom have stood by this call. One of them, Amal Clooney, a world-renowned human rights lawyer, who wrote in the Financial Times along with fellow members of her panel. She has called the ICC's announcement as a milestone in the history of the international criminal law. And in a statement on the Clooney Foundation for Justice, on its homepage, she writes, "As a human rights lawyer, I will never accept that one child's life has less value than another's. I do not accept that any conflict should be beyond the reach of the law, nor that any perpetrator should be above the law. So I support the historic step that the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court has taken to bring justice to victims of atrocities in Israel and Palestine." Amal Clooney, for the past couple of months, was severely criticized by many who had been surprised that, given her experience and her background on human rights, that she was very quiet on the Palestinian crisis. Her position as one of the experts on the panel and the need to remain neutral on the panel explains this now. Khan, in his statement on the warrants, has said that today we once again underline that international law and the laws of armed conflict apply to all. No foot soldier, no commander, no civilian leader, no one can act with impunity. This is no doubt bringing shivers down the backs of many leaders across the world, including Western leaders who felt they could bamboozle the world into any war of its liking, and in particular the United States, who often does not even get UN approval for its wars. That is required unless a war is for self-defense. As we would expect, strong reactions have emerged from Hamas and Israel, as well as Israel's allies. Hamas has condemned the request for warrants, saying it strongly denounces the attempt to equate the victim with the executioner by issuing arrest warrants against a number of Palestinian resistance leaders. And it has demanded the cancellation of all arrest warrants issued against these leaders of the Palestinian resistance for violating United Nations conventions and resolutions. The Palestinians are upset that the earlier case in front of the chief prosecutor has not been concluded yet. The ICC's pre-trial chamber in 2021 had determined that The Hague has jurisdiction over Israel and the Palestinians in connection with accusations of Israeli war crimes committed in the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem since 2014.
We do not believe that they have jurisdiction over either of the parties of this conflict, and that includes Hamas.
You don't think that Hamas...
Israel's reaction to the ICC prosecutors' move to seek to arrest warrants for Benjamin Netanyahu and Gallant have been one of strong condemnation. A senior Israeli official has described the action as embarrassing on an international level, and Benny Gantz, a member of the war cabinet, has termed it moral blindness and a crime of historic proportion. Netanyahu, who had previously characterized the possibility of an ICC arrest warrant as an unprecedented anti-Semitic hate crime. Now he released a video from the Prime Minister's office saying that this was moral outrage of historic proportions and saying that the move targeted all of Israel and was absurd. How dare you compare the monsters of Hamas to the soldiers of the Israeli army, the world's most moral military, he asked. Earlier this month, when there was news circulating that the ICC was about to prosecute cases against Israeli officials for committing war crimes in Gaza, Netanyahu arrogantly warned the ICC to refrain from going beyond the line against Israeli officials. He said the ICC was founded as a consequence of the Holocaust and should not attempt to undermine Israel's fundamental right to self-defense. In fact, he's incorrect. ICJ was founded in 1945 as a result of the Holocaust, and not the ICC, which was founded later in 2002. Israel Katz, the Israeli foreign minister, has warned that he intends to speak with the foreign ministers of leading countries around the world to urge them to oppose the prosecutor's decision and to declare that even if warrants are issued, they do not intend to enforce them against Israeli leaders. The Israeli government is now expected to consult with senior legal experts to determine the next steps, as well as their friend, the United States. They will not be giving Netanyahu over to the ICC, even if some of them would no doubt love to do it. President Biden has described the application for warrants as being outrageous and said that, let me be clear, whatever this prosecutor might imply, there is no equivalence, none, between Israel and Hamas.
Let me be clear. We reject the ICC's application for arrest warrants against Israeli leaders. Whatever these warrants may imply, there is no equivalence between Israel and Hamas.
Similarly, the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, has said, we reject the prosecutor's equivalence of Israel with Hamas. And according to him, arrests by the ICC would actually jeopardize efforts to reach a ceasefire agreement, the hostage deal, and hinder humanitarian aid to Gaza. Congress members have given out a number of statements which have blasted the decision, with some saying that they will introduce measures to sanction the ICC and the chief prosecutor. Senator Tom Cotton, a right-wing hawk from the Republican Party and a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, has said that Khan's kangaroo court has no jurisdiction in Israel to pursue these anti-Semitic and politically motivated charges. And he added that he looks forward to making sure that neither Khan, his associates, nor their families will ever set foot again in the United States. The White House will now, no doubt, have to burn midnight oil for the next several days to ensure that the application doesn't go anywhere, by assuring Khan and his team that Netanyahu's office will cooperate, which until now did not do so. If they can show that the Israeli courts will look into the matter, this will delay the application, as the ICC is only required to look at the case if national courts are not seen to be doing their job. The ICC's pursuit of legal action against leaders from both sides of the conflict sends a powerful message that no one is above the law, as well as expanding the scope of international justice to include more state and non-state actors who are involved in such conflicts worldwide. In addition, if the warrants are issued, it addresses complaints from the global south that the only cases that involve non-Western countries are ever brought by the court. Maybe we can have hope from the court to bring the butcher of Palestinians to justice. Thank you for joining me today, and I would like to request you once again, if you enjoyed the content, to subscribe and like and share this video. Thank you.